Welcome to Showboys, a podcast that delves into the world of film and TV. Hosts Nick and Mike take their water cooler talk from the office to the web as they discuss their favorite movies, shows, and all other content in between. In this week's episode, the boys are joined by special guests Alex and Chad from That Strange podcast as they discuss the internet sensation of alternate reality games and their impact in viral marketing and storytelling, and even their impact in the real world. So, what's an ARG? Welcome to another episode of Showboys. Joined always, as always, by Nick, my lovely co-host. Hi, Nick. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Good after vacation exhaustion setting in.
Yes, the best. Yeah, thanks, by the way, for jumping on today. The day after you got home.
It happens. Drove 12 and a half hours straight, so, I feel weird, but I feel good.
Nice. We are also joined by some very special guests, good friends of the show, Alex and Chad from That Strange podcast. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great, man.
We are doing good. Thank you for having us. And yeah, I've been looking forward to this for a while, so it's pretty cool that it's happening now.
Yeah, for sure. Going along with our October theme of covering spooky stuff, I thought it would be a really cool episode to do with you guys, since I kind of found this strange rabbit hole on YouTube, probably like a year and a half ago or so. But I feel like the topic today kind of blends both of our podcasts together, as it's kind of weird and strange and odd, but also kind of like a film or TV series type deal. So yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you guys about this.
Yeah, I think it fits us both very perfectly. I had actually never heard of what we're about to talk until you sent me this, and I've kind of been on it since you sent me the link because I wanted to learn as much as I could before I got on here. So
nice. Yeah. So today we're going to cover the lovely topic of ARGs. And if you're unfamiliar with what ARGs are, ARG just stands for alternate reality game, and it acts as like an interactive or immersive form of media used to tell a story. Usually it will be presented across various different platforms, not just one. You'll find maybe videos on YouTube, posts on sites like Reddit or 4chan, or even Twitter, for example, has been used in one of the ARGs that I follow. But basically, information is presented to the audience as real or authentic, and the creators of the ARGs never announce that, hey, this is an ARG. They just kind of throw up a random post on Reddit. Let's use that as an example, and just kind of put it out there and see if it kind of catches on. And then somebody will stumble on it and think it's weird, and then somehow discover the code or whatever is being presented, and then it takes them down this giant rabbit hole of this huge story or puzzle. So I've kind of been on this for, like I was saying, like a year and a half or so. Nick, have you heard of ARGs before we decided to talk about this today?
Really only through you and or Cody. And then just from what you guys talk about it, that's just where I draw similarities, I guess, to other things, but not really. No.
Yeah, and then like Chad, you were saying you just kind of
I mean,
on it.
I didn't know the term alternate reality game, but I knew that I had like the Blair Witch Project did something like this when it came out. Cloverfield, I think, did something like this when it came out. So I think The Dark Knight too. So I think that I've definitely encountered them before. I've just never encountered what they were actually called. And I think it's a pretty brilliant marketing campaign because for a long time, a lot of people thought the Blair Witch was completely real. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
and I think that leads a lot to the marketing that they had for it, which was this kind of marketing, which I thought was brilliant.
I love that I got Chad like hooked on thinking about marketing and like audio quality.
Yeah,
and all
man,
that
it's
stuff.
so weird. It's so weird.
Like you'd never think that.
Yeah, I mean,
you'd be
I like
talking
had
about
like
that kind of stuff.
I had like a full list of podcasts that I typically always listen to, and then once we started this and I started listening to like audio quality and stuff, I had to like kick like half of them off because I couldn't even listen to them anymore. So
Nice.
Hopefully, we made the list.
yeah, you're good,
Fingers
man.
crossed.
Yeah, this is perfect.
No, this is good.
But Alex, do you have any experience with following or playing ARGs at all?
I do actually. So I'm a huge Fallout fan. The game from Bethesda. So before they released Fallout 4, are you guys familiar with the game?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I mean, I knew Chad was, but mainly for the show boys. Before they released Fallout 4, they mysteriously released a website, and I believe it was called The Lone Wanderer or something like that, or that's what it was titled or something. But anyway, it was just like a black screen with kind of a hidden message there, and I think there might have been a link eventually. But anyway, I didn't know what ARGs were. I just knew that was like really cool and something that I wanted to be a part of. So I looked into it. I did like you go into like the HTML of the website and try to find like who's the domain owner and stuff like that. And a ton of people did stuff like that and found out that eventually it was tied to Bethesda. And before that, nobody had any idea. So then Bethesda starts releasing other things on that website, and then eventually a video that I can't remember exactly what the video had on it off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's archives on the internet that show it, and probably YouTube videos, like tons of them that talk about it. But that was one of the coolest things and one of the coolest ways, in my opinion, to kind of like Chad said, to market a new game or new anything, to kind of bring hype to an experience or something new that's coming out. I thought it was like so cool. And ever since then I've followed a lot of like, there's a lot of TikTok things like that we may or may not talk about today, but it kind of like the not to like jump into anything, but kind of like the Ash vlogs is a lot of the stuff that I've followed and just love that stuff. So
yeah, the one thing, the way I was introduced to ARGs initially, I guess my first experience with an ARG was like Chad mentioned, Cloverfield.
Oh yeah.
Complete
for sure.
side note, that is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, it's actually it's like probably top 10 for me actually. So
yeah, such a great movie. But they did a lot of like additional storytelling leading up to the release of the Cloverfield movie, and made a handful of websites just talking about. Let's see if I can remember the corporation names and stuff.
Yeah, it was it's like it's a slushy company, right?
Yeah,
They make,
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yes.
Did you guys ever play? I was gonna say, did you guys ever play Five Nights at Freddy's?
No, but I know what it is.
No,
but
I know a ton
of.
I know a ton
But
about it. People.
they do a ton of stuff with like. Now that I realize what ARG is, that's like they have a whole like lore background and all the storytelling that they do, and it's like so creepy, dude. It talks about how like the animatronics were like slaves and stuff like it's nuts. It's crazy.
Wow. That's
yeah. Yeah, Cloverfield had a really, really cool one. Basically building up the plot of the movie before the movie started, to kind of like explain the happenings of Cloverfield and kind of where whatever the monster is called, I'll just call him Clover, where Clover, came from and like what woke him up or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But most people's interactions with ARGs are probably going to be through like viral marketing campaigns, like we've been talking about. Games use them, movies, even some musicians and bands have used them. Like Nine Inch Nails had an ARG for their album One, and this one's really actually kind of funny. Harry Styles from One Direction, I believe, is one. It's One Direction. I could be wrong. Not a big One Direction or Harry
stop
Styles
pretending.
fan. So
stop pretending like you don't know that Harry Styles is in One Direction.
Guys,
come on.
I told you that in confidence, but you're never coming back on the show. No, but their marketing team started this ARG called Eroda Island, and it got a lot of ARG fans really, really excited because it kind of came, I guess, in a drought of ARGs. And as it started to play out, people are like, dude, I think this is promoting Harry Styles. And the players were like, shut up. No, it's not. This has nothing to do with One Direction. This is a legit ARG.
That's
and
funny.
It eventually, like, it's promoting his new album, and like everyone got so sad. And this guy I follow on YouTube, his name is Night Docs. He made a really funny video diving into the whole Eroda Island thing, and we're gonna have a lot of references to particular ARGs and things of that nature, and we will try Harry Styles, One Direction. We'll hopefully have all of those links in our YouTube video for you guys to check out. But yeah, I don't know, man. ARGs are really kind of brilliant.
Yeah, I agree completely with what you're saying there, because if you think about it, I'm going to go back to Cloverfield for a second. If you think about it, that movie's outside of the marketing campaign that it took. If it didn't have that marketing campaign and it didn't have that shroud of mystery surrounding the movie where nobody really even knew what it was about, there was just like the poster and then the fake websites and stuff. It's kind of a generic monster movie, but with all that stuff combined, man, I literally think I saw Cloverfield in the theater like 7 times because I absolutely devoured it. I wanted to find every little secret, everything. So it's a brilliant marketing campaign, because I don't know that I would have ever saw that movie in the theater, because I'm not really that big of a monster movie guy. Right. I don't know if I would have ever saw it if there wasn't such that mystery shroud over it,
Yeah, and 10 Cloverfield Lane kind of kicked it up a notch with their ARG.
Yeah, right.
They had some GPS coordinates hidden somewhere in either like a poster or an image, or I forget exactly where, but people found these coordinates, and then somebody actually went to the spot and like found an ammo crate that was full of like actual things. One of those things being like a flash drive, and there was like a letter and stuff that was written from. Have any of you guys seen 10 Cloverfield Lane?
Yeah, I've seen all the Cloverfield movies.
Even the Netflix one.
And I
haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it's okay.
Me neither.
It's a little bit. It feels a little bit more tied to the original Cloverfield than 10 Cloverfield Lane did, but it's a Netflix movie. I mean, it's super cool because it's got to do with like the super collider that we talked about in our episode. That's kind of the basis of the movie. So I thought the science-y stuff behind it was kind of cool. But
yeah,
I think
sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that the flash drive in the letter was written by Howard, the main character, like the guy in the bunker, to his daughter. So it's just like things like that are just like super creative.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like just how they think of these things. It's just so cool. Like I love it. Anything to help get people engaged in something, I find, fun and entertaining. It's just like an extra layer to something that you're already probably going to enjoy.
I mean, in that situation, I would say that might have, from the creator's perspective, when they're thinking of all these different things in their head, like to get themselves in that character, directing, writing, whatever you're doing. I feel like that's where a lot of this kind of stems from. It's not stuff you would put in the movie, but there's just these ideas when you're thinking about these characters and they're just kind of floating out there. So I think it's a really good way to kind of push that out there in a very passive way for people who are interested, like big Cloverfield fans, because they just go crazy for this stuff. I know, Mike, you're a big one on that. So.
And that
did you guys ever hear about Bond Skinny? On another really good place to find ARGs is TikTok. Did you guys?
Unfortunately, I do not have Skinny? TikTok, but I have heard of Bond Skinny. I haven't looked into.
I don't have TikTok either, but I just watch all that because she's not the account was banned and she's not on there anymore or anything. But all the archives are on YouTube. And if you guys have not seen that, you got to check it out because
I'm gonna check that out.
The whole thing was surrounded around this girl that wore a like this demented clown mask.
That's scary. I just looked it up.
Yeah. And she, but the crazier part of it is that everybody thought, and honestly, I mean, I'm calling it an ARG, but honestly, I don't know that it was really ever proven, and I could be wrong, but she would just make short little clips of herself. Like sometimes she's screaming for no reason. A lot of people thought that she was handicapped, like mentally disabled. Like they thought that she was in a serious situation where she was in danger because a lot of the time she would be in a room that was like, just a complete mess and dilapidated. And like I said, if you guys have not seen the videos on YouTube, you got to check them out. It's really, really unsettling, actually.
Yeah, but I feel like I've heard of it, and just in some of the YouTube channels that I follow that do dives on ARGs and similar content like that, I feel like I've seen videos covering it. I just haven't watched them just because the thumbnail is absolutely horrific. And I'm like,
right.
Am I really prepared to go down this rabbit hole?
Yeah.
Oh man. But could you imagine organically, I guess that was the word I was looking for, or organically finding an ARG and not knowing what it is?
Yeah, that would it would be super cool, because a lot of this stuff, if you don't know what it is, like that, even that Ash Vlogs thing, if you don't know what it is, you could think it's real, you know what I mean? And some of that stuff in that thing was kind of horrifying. So I think it's
Ash Vlogs is that's
yeah, for sure. And then another one that I think had a pretty decent ARG by the looks of it was Marble Hornets, which was a thing that Alex and I were really into, and I think we discussed it in our Slenderman episode.
Yeah, I was about to say, is that a
fantastic series?
Yes, it's really, really good. Maybe by today's standards, it might be a little behind, because I think, when did it come out, Alex? It started in the early 2000s, right? Or 06, maybe?
Early 2000s, maybe mid to 06 sounds good.
So it's
it definitely was one of the first ones. I know that.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. I mean, it was a thing that Alex and I watched 10 episodes every time we worked together. We just sat down and watched it, and they're all pretty short, but put together, man. It's really good. I think it's definitely worth a watch, and I think it's probably the best Slender Man thing out there because the movies. I didn't see the actual like Hollywood movies on Slender Man, but
they are very, very scary. As some of them are like you're actually going to have nightmares about it, and then there's other ones that really aren't. It just kind of builds up to that one episode that is just really scary, kind of like the Local 58 thing you shared. I watched almost all of them, and my dad actually he's always sending me creepy stuff, and he actually introduced me to David Lynch and that Rabbits. Did you guys happen to check that out?
Yeah, I watched Rabbits. That was
dude, isn't that weird?
It was.
I know I'm getting off topic, but
cool.
But not really with Local 58, because you can kind of call that like kind of the same thing, like maybe like an alternate reality series. I don't know. Is that even a thing?
Yeah. So we just recently put out an episode about analog horror, and that is like the poster child of the analog horror genre. But a lot of analog horror kind of also blends into the ARG type stuff. But yeah, Local 58 is such a cool series. Like I'm actually kind of sad because he hasn't put out a new video in quite some time. And
I'm gonna let you guys in on a really, really deep secret that nobody knows. You ready?
What's up?
I'm gonna start an analog horror channel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
And once I talk to Chad, it may even launch our YouTube channel. I'm not going to really talk a whole lot about our show, but yeah, I'm obsessed with analog horror, and I never knew that it was called analog horror. There's a lot of things that I really, really enjoy, but I have no idea what they are.
Right. Yeah, right, right. For everybody else, why don't you explain, or somebody explain, because I don't know what analog horror is, to be honest with you.
So, shameless plug, go listen to our episode. But you can't do that right now because you're listening to this episode, or in your case, you're on this episode.
Yeah,
so,
right.
How is it a shameless plug if we're on Show Boys?
That's true.
I don't know.
It's not shameless.
You're plugging your own show.
You're right. Yeah, listen to my own show. Listen to our show. Anyways, so analog horror is also another thing that's really hard to explain. But the majority of your analog horror is like you're watching a public access or news channel or something. Usually it revolves around like radio or TV or whatever, and usually involves some sort of hijacking from a third party of whatever TV or radio station, and then like creepy text or subliminal messaging or other creepy, disturbing things. And generally they kind of the stories will usually lead up to some kind of like Lovecraftian type creature thingy. I don't know. They're kind of all a little different, but the best example I can think of that most people will know is the original broadcast of War of the Worlds.
Oh wow, yeah.
I don't think that's like technically classified as analog horror, but when we were researching for our episode, excuse me, I was like, wait a second, this War of the Worlds thing was like 100% analog horror, and like,
yeah, right. I think a lot of people thought that was real back in the day, like it was an actual alien attack. I think it was like a major issue back then. That
it caused a lot of chaos because like, okay, so it came out I believe in the 40s. I'm not like staring at the information right now, but I want to say around the 40s. And back then a lot of people's main source of entertainment was listening to radio, and like they would do radio plays and radio stories, and then like obviously music stuff and like news broadcasts and whatnot. And when they broadcast the War of the Worlds story, like at the very beginning, you can listen to the original broadcast, by the way, on YouTube. It's up there. It's like 45 minutes, I think, maybe up to an hour long. But at the beginning, they do say like, hey, this is a story, written by blah blah blah, performed by these people.
Right.
But if you were not tuned
Missed
in
it.
at like
Yeah.
that exact moment for those like 2 minutes, like it's straight up like a normal broadcast day for them. Like they're
Wow.
airing some orchestral concert or whatever, and it keeps getting interrupted by breaking news updates. And then, the War of the Worlds story unfolds, and people like you were saying, legitimately thought something was going on, and it was like it caused mass chaos, and it was like a crazy ordeal back then.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, it was 1938, October 30th, 1938 is when it started, and it was on at 8 or 9 p.m., which is later in the night, which I think is kind of cool. Yeah, I remember hearing about this for sure, and I remember hearing about the chaos that it caused because people were thinking that it was actually a real broadcast.
Yeah, if you have time, I would recommend listening to the original broadcast. It's really interesting. It's good. But yeah, man, I don't even know where we're going with that, but that was a fun little rabbit hole we went down there.
Yeah, for sure.
but both of those genres kind of blend together. I guess the real defining point would be, is there something you need to solve
right yeah, that's what I
to
was
help
gonna
the
say.
story progress?
I was going to say that it almost kind of, just by the sounds of it, seems like analog horror kind of became alternate reality games, and they added in the puzzles and stuff, and that's what kind of makes it different. It's like the modern version of maybe analog horror. But I mean, by the sounds of it, there's analog horror still out today, right? It's not like an old thing too.
No, analog horror is relatively new, I would say. It kind of like the Local 58 series and other channels of that nature, like kind of popped up around like 2 years ago or so.
Oh wow. Oh okay. Yeah.
It's definitely a manifestation of existing concepts and things we already watch or see.
Yeah.
Have you guys heard of Welcome to Night Vale?
No.
It's a I guess I'm about to plug them, but I mean they're huge. It doesn't really matter. Welcome to Night Vale is a podcast, and it's like an analog horror podcast, and it is
interesting,
so good.
Nice.
But I mean, like I said, they're a humongous podcast, so I mean, I mean they've kind of proven themselves already. So
yeah,
no worries.
I think I kind of came across something like this that maybe is analog horror, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's got the guy. It's a podcast, and it's got the guy that played Freddie Mercury in the Queen movie. What's his name?
Rami Malek.
Yes, Rami Malek, and
my boy from Mr. Robot. Nick, there we did it.
There you go.
So we also have this thing where every single episode we've made so far, we've had at least one reference to Mr. Robot, which is like my favorite show of all time. And it always happens like it's never forced. It just always comes up.
It has to naturally. It naturally has to happen.
I tell you what, I watched the first season of Mr. Robot, but I never finished it, and I've always wanted to go back and watch it.
Well,
Mike's about
that's
to
exactly
now that we're on our Mr. Robot section of ARGs. Please finish it. You will not be disappointed. It's one of the most intense, like, amazing shows I've ever seen.
Did it get canceled, or did it actually run its only like 3 seasons, right?
4. It ran its course. Okay. The cool thing about Mr. Robot, we won't stay on this very long, but the Sam Esmail, the creator of Mr. Robot, originally it was going to be a movie, and then they decided to do a series. So that means that he always had the end in mind. So like he knew exactly the story he was going to tell. So he made it 4 seasons, and like every scene in every episode is like so important because he knew the exact story he was going to tell. Unlike some shows that go on for like 10, 11, 12, 15 seasons where they just drag things out and like
keep telling the same story over and over. Yeah, that's like Grey's Anatomy suffers from that greatly. They're on like their 25th season or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
So just briefly, and then I want to go back to Mr. Robot, but that podcast I was talking about with him is called Blackout, and it's
Okay.
about like a blackout in the country, and it's like people communicating back and forth. I thought it was pretty good. I think it like
I think I've heard
randomly
of that.
just yeah, just randomly. I think you did because I think Apple kind of advertised it in their podcast thing because I think that's how I got it. It just like popped it into my
Oh.
actual thing, and I started listening to it. It's pretty good. I don't know, compared to everything else we're talking about here, where it lands, but
Yeah,
so
you said it's Blackout. It's called
Blackout. Yep.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
So Mr. Robot, I always like, for people that don't know, I'm a really huge gamer, and I always try to like line up whatever game I'm playing with a TV show or something I can watch along with it. So I was playing Watch Dogs. That's kind of how I got onto
I
Mr. because I was looking. Did you know? Yeah,
I knew you were gonna say that.
so I kind of I think I watched the first. Maybe I did watch the second season. I was looking for like a good hacker movie / TV show, and there's really not anything out there besides Mr. Robot and some older 80s movies. Tron has a little bit of hacking in it, but
Yeah.
So yeah, that's actually how I kind of came across Mr. Robot originally.
Yes, it's a great show. You should finish it.
Yeah, I have to finish Watch Dogs too, so maybe I'll hop on to Watch Dogs too and get back to Mr. Robot.
There you go, hand in hand.
Yep.
Speaking of video games, awkward transition. I believe Halo 2 had an ARG.
It did
on
yes.
its release.
Yep.
But like, so in my experience with ARGs, it's just kind of been watching people's recaps or like explanations or like dives into the ARG. I've never actually played one, just because like I don't think I have the brain power to solve any of the puzzles or think of any of the ways that people like find things in these that need solved. But like, have any of you actually participated in playing and solving and figuring out the story and the puzzles?
I have not, but I'm currently super interested in doing that. And I think you got to kind of be there in the beginning, you know what I mean? Because like even if you look up, like when I looked up the Ash vlog stuff, a lot of the stuff you find are people explaining it or trying to explain it, So I think you got to find one that's maybe a little less popular to be able to really dive into it and solve up everything.
So Nick, now that we're this far into the episode and you having probably the least amount of experience or knowledge of ARGs, does any of this, like, is this making some things that you may have come across sound familiar and recognizable as an ARG, or are you still like, I don't think I've ever like seen, watched, heard of ARGs?
No, I think that's the cool thing about them, and we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. There's a comment, but essentially they oftentimes happen without being classified as anything, whether they're just kind of like promotional stuff that people that are following get into. And I think before you realize it, you are part of an ARG and you're enjoying it. So yeah, there's links to lots of things, I think, that have touched on this. Like I never got into the Cloverfield stuff, but I remember like from you telling me about stuff like that. But even like the games, and I think some people might make them without realizing it either, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
That's kind of, like I said, that's kind of how I was. I came across them. I didn't really realize what it was, but
it was something you're interested in that all of a sudden had this other content that you were diving into, and you're like, oh, this is really cool because I really like this thing, and this thing has all this other stuff that I can get involved in.
Yeah, and that's kind of the Blair Witch was really like that when I was a kid. There was a bunch of like books and stuff, and I was totally into Blair Witch when it came out. So there was a bunch of books, and they had the ARG thing going on, and it was kind of like, I was young. I was very young when I think Blair Witch came out like 99, I think maybe. So I was like 11 or 12.
Sounds about right.
So
wow, that's forever ago.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And I think
that's crazy.
I think it holds up pretty well. I watched it a couple months ago. I think it's still just as scary as it was back then, but it was a little yeah, is it 1990? Yeah, that's what I thought. It was a little harder for me back then to realize that all of this was like a marketing campaign and it wasn't real. You know what I mean? Because you're like kid and you're like spooked out and you're like horrified and you're like, oh my gosh, this is real. But nowadays, if something like that comes out, you're like, okay, they're not going to put a documentary about a movie like this. You know what I mean? Something this horrifying where people are disappearing in the documentary. So
like while we're right here in this conversation, I remember like Cody is probably as big of an ARG fan as I am, and a lot of the stuff that I stumbled on initially, like year and a half ago, I would share with him, and then he would send me stuff too. But I remember I think I remember having a conversation with him. If I didn't, I remember thinking this, like, what if some person who didn't know what an ARG was, or wasn't like really into the know of YouTube, like realistic type videos and stuff, stumbled on an ARG of similar fashion, of like an Ash Vlogs or something, which we can talk about Ash Vlogs next, just because we've made a bunch of references to it, and I have a very big feeling that most of the people listening to this have no idea what Ash Vlogs is, so we should probably explain that next
for sure.
But imagine like just booming around YouTube, and you come across Ash Vlogs, and you're like, oh my god, this girl is being murdered. Like,
yeah, right.
This, like, why is nobody's doing who is calling the
Right.
like, have the authorities been called? Like,
yeah, that's funny that you say that, because I actually, right before we recorded, I sat down with my wife and watched the video that you sent on Ash Vlogs, and like halfway through, she's like, why aren't the cops doing anything? I didn't want to tell her, even though he explains it at the beginning of the video that it's an ARG. He doesn't explain what an ARG is, so she had no idea.
Yeah.
So by the end, I was like, you do realize that it's like not real? And she's like, oh, I didn't know that. I was like, why is nobody doing anything about this? Like, it's all right here.
Yeah, so that like raises a couple questions, right? First off, if somebody actually, like an actual killer or kidnapper, or insert whatever terrible adjective you want to describe a person doing bad things, actually posted a video of a real crime, like,
and pass it off as an ARG.
Yeah, with the popularity of ARGs, like,
right.
Like, are people even going to be like, oh my god, somebody needs to call the police?
Right,
or are they just be like,
right.
well, that's super realistic ARG, bro. Like 10 out of 10.
Right.
Would recommend.
It's totally going to get to that point.
I got to be honest, that might be worth a look up, because I would be shocked if it hasn't happened yet. Because
funny you say that, because a couple weeks ago, I randomly in my YouTube rabbit hole stumbled on a story from back in 2016. There was a missing person named Kayla Berg in Wisconsin, and it's not funny. Like, I shouldn't laugh, but like, somebody stumbled onto a video that was a part of an ARG, and I can't remember the name of it. I want to say is like something Hello Walter or something like that. But I have links to the articles in the video, so we'll make sure we post those on YouTube so you can look at them. But anyways, back to the story. The video ended up circling around to Kayla's mother, and like, people thought the girl in the video in the ARG was Kayla. So like,
wow,
the police got involved, obviously, because the mom was like, that looks like my daughter. It even sounds like her. Like, do so, like, let's go get her. The Washington Post wrote a story on it back in 2016. NBC Chicago wrote a story on it. But obviously it was found out that it was just a fictional story in ARG, and like the video got, or the channel got taken down and whatever. But like, somebody did actually mistake an ARG for a real life missing persons case.
Right. And
I would imagine that probably happens more than we think.
Yeah.
And then, once it's, once they take care of the issue, it probably either shut the ARG down and you never hear that police were reported. I mean, I would be more surprised if that doesn't happen a lot more, because that just means nobody's concerned.
Right. Yeah, true.
But like, what are the legal ramifications for the creators of that? Because like they weren't. I mean, they were just making a story, but like making it look as if it was real. So
I would
like,
think that if there was no harm, no foul, kind of, that there would be. It would just be like an investigation, and they wouldn't find anything and find out everything's fake and just move on. I don't know that they would be charged. Maybe like if it's like super popular and a big deal, then maybe it's like inducing panic or something like that.
That's what I was.
They can get charged with. But
Yeah, that's what I'd say. Like,
interesting question.
Man, but yeah, I'm surprised that at least that we don't hear of things like that happening.
Do these things typically, they don't have like any kind of disclaimer, right? Like saying, hey, this is an ARG, right? It's just, so.
Well, yeah, and it's kind of like, sorry, go ahead, Nick. I don't want to cut you off. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, that's funny you say that, because the War of the Worlds thing had one.
Did have
but
one,
everyone tuned in like afterwards, or most people.
Yeah. Well, like,
you would think they'd put it at the end too. You know what I mean?
It's almost like
just to remind you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe for most people, they have to put it like every 5 minutes.
Right. True. Yeah. Right.
Well, I think the defining term, to distinguish like analog horror or other forms of horror with ARGs, is like, even some of the ARG examples that we might talk about in a bit, they might be lacking in this area. But the thing that makes an ARG is that the story only progresses or will change due to the community's solving and playing of the game.
Right.
So like Ash Vlogs, is it really an ARG, or is it like a story that has a lot of hidden stuff in it, but like people solving the puzzles doesn't change the direction of the story? Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
Like, definitely. They were already going to go in a certain way, but they add all of these layers of puzzles and like the ARG gimmicks to make it, that extra layer of things that people need to look into. But like, if I solve the one puzzle, it's not going to make the story make a right hand turn instead of a left hand turn.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you would think, and you would also think that these things would have to be, especially if you're doing it where the community's solving it and it's changing the story, it would have to be somewhat popular. You know what I mean? Yeah. If nobody's playing your ARG, you're not going to be able to progress that story unless you just keep progressing it yourself until it kind of picks up traction. But
yeah, actually, that reminds me of something you guys brought up in your QAnon episode. Excuse me. Cicada 3301. I remember hearing about this, just my YouTube rabbit holes of stuff. But like, as far as an ARG that truly waited and only progressed as the puzzles were being solved, have you guys looked into the Cicada 3301 thing? I'm pretty sure you mentioned it.
I've definitely heard of it. I don't remember what it was about though. So
basically, it started out like all the other ones. A post on Reddit is like, "Hey, find the code in this image, and you will move on to the next level or whatever." And then it is an elaborate code puzzle solving game, but it progressed over many years, and the next steps of Cicada only happened like when people solved the thing. Like, he didn't wait like a year and nobody solved it, so I guess I'll just put out the next part. He's like, no, I'm not putting anything out until it's solved. So there was like a very substantial gap. But basically that one, I did a little bit more digging today before we started recording, but there's kind of like a theory floating around. I think you guys might have talked about it, maybe not, but that Cicada is kind of linked to QAnon in a way. That
well,
I think we did talk about that.
Yeah, I think we did. Or actually, I think Mike, you had said, did you message us and say something about like, what if Pizzagate or QAnon was just an ARG that's like kind of taken off? And when you're talking about it and you kind of think about it, I mean, it could be a very good possibility. It's got a little bit more political ties to it, maybe, than
Right.
horror ties per se, but
It's still horrific though.
it is horrific. Oh yeah, absolutely horrific for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting. If that, it wouldn't shock me at all if like 10 years down the road, whoever created that was like, yeah, I just made this as ARG to kind of
That would be insane because
stick
like
a pin into
literally
the election.
you have like the president
Right. Yeah.
retweeting key
Yeah.
drops
Right.
and stuff.
Yeah. Right.
Well, that's a pretty successful ARG
Yeah,
if
for
that's what it
sure.
turns out to
For
be.
sure.
Oh man. But like the story of Cicada is they used this puzzle because they were recruiting potential people to be a part of this organization, and like it was never revealed what the organization was and what the organization's intents and purpose was. But it was like, we're testing people, and if you're able to solve this, then you'll become recruited by us. And like some of the people who solved it actually got like emails being like, okay, you did it, you're one of the few, like here's the next step type deal. There's some interesting videos explaining
cool.
Cicada, and I would recommend checking them out just because it's like very interesting.
Yeah, that's definitely. I'm glancing. I had never heard of it before, but it's definitely. I'm gonna add it to my list for sure.
Nice. So I have a list here of some of my favorite ARGs. Odds are I don't expect any of you to have heard of or seen any of these, but I would be super happy if you have. But some of my favorite are this one called Dad, which is really interesting. But
Dad?
yeah, most of these kind of fall in that category of like they're just kind of like creepy or interesting or unsettling stories that have layers of things for you to look into, but not really like your solving of these aren't really progressing the story type deal. But yeah, Dad's a good one. I'd highly recommend that. It's super weird, and it has some sweet like synthwave music if you're into that. Abstractions is a really good one. The Sun Vanished is really interesting, and that one unfolded completely on Twitter, so that's interesting.
Cool. Yeah.
And then one that I found last week, it's called Ben's Playhouse. They're very cool, and
dude, you're so like, if I didn't know you personally, I'd be like, who is this guy? Why is he like, why does he watch all this stuff?
Yeah, this guy is allowed to have a family? Like what?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how does he do it?
Yeah, I'm actually like, yeah, I definitely come across as a somewhat normal person until until
you get to know you.
Yeah, until we have conversations like this, and then you're like, oh my gosh,
Until someone pulls you aside.
is this
Like, can I
guy
ask
on
you
a
a
list
Have you
somewhere?
seen Ben's Playhouse and Dad?
Yeah. I definitely recommend checking any of those out. And if you're like me, and well, most of these are old and either already completed or pretty much solved. So a few places that kind of dig into these ARGs and explain them. There are some great YouTube channels. Nexpo, second shout out. Please notice me. I love you.
Nexpo really is an amazing
Top shelf.
YouTube channel. I mean,
Top shelf.
the production value on those videos is just absolutely insane for what he's doing. It's crazy.
He's great. And then he's got like his circle of YouTube people, like Night Docs is a good one. Night Mind is really, really good at explaining these ARGs and like going through all the puzzles and like all that stuff. His videos are pretty long, so you have to have like a decent amount of time to dig into a Night Mind video.
Is there anywhere that you can like go to find these things that like just by themselves without explanations of them?
The
There-
internet, Chad.
I mean,
There
like
is-
there's no
There's a
database of
subreddit.
all these different. Is there? Okay.
Yeah. Where they post new ones or people.
Because it'd be interesting to like try and solve these things, and then if
Yeah.
you can't do it, you can kind of look up. You know, it's almost like playing a game. You know what I mean? You try it a little bit.
Chad,
and then you
that
can't do it,
reminded
and-
me. That reminded me of something else on Reddit. There is a subreddit that is completely dedicated to people that have been catfished, and they post their situation, and you have to try and figure out like if this person's catfishing them.
Oh wow, that's cool.
And,
Yeah, I
and
like that. That's
it's
a cool
really
idea.
cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it's funny how much traction that catfishing thing has picked up since the original movie. And did you guys ever see
Dude,
that movie?
I would totally do that.
I
I
didn't
watch the
see-
show all
yeah,
the time.
The show. I
Yeah,
saw
the
that.
movie's pretty good because it's actually the host's actual story, like because it was done to him. You know, that's kind of why he started the show. But it's definitely interesting. And then the ending is just like so bizarre. You know, it's like not who you're expecting it to be. And
Right?
she's got like
It's
a
actually-
crazy
That's how I met
family.
Nick.
Yeah, catfish him.
Yeah. Nick got me, but
It's so cute.
I stuck around. I was like, hey, this isn't. It's not bad.
I like your personality.
Hey man, there's some people that have done that on the show. They're like, I don't really care what you look like. So that's
Nice.
saying something, I guess. I mean, I think I would be pretty salty that somebody lied to me for years on ends, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Maybe a little bit.
That's like a major red flag, but
You should really, Chad, you just need to practice forgiveness. That's all. I think that
it's true.
you,
That's true, maybe.
you know,
I mean, it would take me a
tend,
while.
you tend to be more salty than sweet. So no.
Oh man, you guys talking about food and stuff, and I found actually a potential
Was that a good
ARG.
transition?
It was
It was
a
it
slightly
was.
less awkward transition than
Alright.
I'm
last
nailing
time.
this. I'm bringing up the transition,
yeah.
and you're going
Boom.
for it.
I was on Chad. The subreddit is just /ARGs. So I was checking
Okay,
that
yeah,
out,
I'll check it out.
and somebody made a post on October 4th about. I don't know why I keep laughing about this stuff because it's
You're
not
sick.
Because
funny.
you're sick.
True. We just had
You're
this
trying to
discussion.
hide real pain.
Yeah, exactly.
Mike, I'm
Crying
very
on the
normal.
But he posted a link about a potential cannibalism restaurant in Brazil.
Mm.
Like this guy posted a video where basically he's like, hey, I need help. Like they kidnapped my mom and my dad. They're at this place and blah, blah, blah. And like,
What was it called?
Let me open the link.
I think that I know exactly what you're talking about.
The Reddit post is cannibalism restaurant in Brazil. Weird ARG found on Instagram at Nexpo. So here
They
I'll
don't give a name.
no
Because
I'm
there's
gonna
a
post
there was
this
a
in-
video that I saw too that they were relating it to like Pizzagate stuff. And
no, I don't think it has
it
to
was
do with
really
that.
funny because they were like, yeah, this is totally real, and like the website's still up because it's fake.
Oh,
So-
Yeah.
nice. In this post, I just posted it in the general chat if you want to go up there and check it out yourselves. But we have this Instagram post where the guy, he says, help me, I'm an artist, I'm in trouble. I discovered a cannibalism restaurant here in Brazil. Now there's an agency of espionage torturing me. My parents were kidnapped. Can you save me, please? I'm suffering. And then it gives like a bunch of personal information that's blacked out. So I don't know who's being doxxed, but somebody is. And so like, all the comments here in this Reddit thread are trying to decide if it's like an ARG or if this guy who made the post is just like suffering from schizophrenia or some kind of mental issue.
Yeah.
Because he gives an address, and the address is like an old clinic that might not be open anymore. And so it's like
Not
I don't know.
creepy at
It's
all.
interesting, but yeah, it's very, very normal and totally
Yeah, right. Yeah, come across it every day.
kosher. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so like, I don't know, this Reddit thread, if you're wanting to participate in an ARG, maybe a new one, try to discover, like, check out, the /ARG subreddit, and you just kind of scroll
Yeah.
through, and people are posting weird things, and
Yeah, I
some of
feel
it-
like if I get on there, I'm gonna be stuck on there for like 6 hours because
Yeah.
anytime I get like on, like when COVID first started, I got on the conspiracy subreddit, and I like came out of it like 7 hours later, and I was like, oh my gosh, my entire day's gone, and I just spent it reading conspiracy theories about COVID. But it's just like one thing leading to another with that kind of stuff for me, you know.
Yeah. So Nick, you ever heard of Ash vlogs?
Not at all.
No. Well, let me tell you, it's pretty crazy.
I'm surprised I haven't heard you talk about it before, or have you? And I just ignored you.
That's probably
yeah.
yeah.
there you go.
Okay.
I mean, that's probably like 60% of our friendship, right?
Mr. Robot, and then second oddball topic, and then I kind of like zone out.
And then you're like, all right, I don't need to listen anymore. We've already discovered this is going nowhere.
So let's do a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. That's the most rational thing to come from that.
I'm like, he needs some way to let this out. What's the best thing we can
there you
do
go.
for him?
There you go.
And Nick's like, now everyone knows the pain and torture I suffer every.
I mean, I think
single
that's how
day.
I got to think that's how every podcast starts, you know, because that's
Yeah.
kind of how like Alex and I started. And we just always talked about this kind of stuff at work, and we were like, I might as well just start it.
Literally, me and Chad would just be like working, and we have downtime, and we're just like, hey man, what are we diving into today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
Exactly.
Chad, did you tell Mike or either of them about the cram?
No, I didn't tell him
Oh,
anything about the
boy.
cram. Yeah, man. So we
So,
we
yeah, go ahead.
actually go for it. You're better at explaining than I am.
I mean, I think you're a really good storyteller, Chad. But I mean, that's fine. So yeah, like we said, we like basically talk about this kind of stuff all the time, but we also both really enjoy video games. So when we wanted to start a podcast, and honestly, Chad, didn't you, when it came to the cram, initiate the podcast idea?
Yeah, so working at the fire department, I think I was the original person working with us that wanted to start a podcast, and it kind of bounced between all kinds of different things from video games to conspiracy theories to movies to TV, and it was just bouncing around trying to find something. And then Alex, I think, actually mentioned that he wanted to try and record a podcast. I was like, yeah, dude, let's do it. And he said games, and that's what I was thinking too. So I was like, oh yeah, let's absolutely, and I think that night when we came up with the idea, we recorded like our first episode. Now our first episode we never released it anywhere.
Yeah.
It was more of just like a test run to see how we would be, in a podcast. And I think it went really well. And we had like a pretty cool plan
It did.
set out
Yeah.
for it,
But the thing is with games, I love playing video games, but I don't research video games, and Chad
Right.
does.
Yeah, I'm like
Chad is he's a freak.
yeah, it's definitely video games will always be my passion. It's just what I do, and I know quite a lot about video games, and I think that's kind of where Alex kind of stumbled at the podcast, because I think you said that I knew way more about video games than you did. So it was
that's kind of how it got to the point for me, and I think we actually recorded 2 episodes.
We did, yep.
Yeah, and then but by the second episode, because I remember we did one on our top 10 favorite video games of all time, and then we did another one when the PlayStation Classic came out.
Right, and we were trying to guess the games that were going to be on that PlayStation Classic, and I think that's where you were like, holy crap, this guy is a super nerd. You're like, I'm
Well,
like
it
calling out
wasn't
games
that.
you've
It wasn't.
never even
It
heard
wasn't
of.
that.
You
It
know?
was just that I couldn't be. I just couldn't be on your level, and I felt like
Yeah.
the dynamic. But our chemistry, not to totally like take your guys' show right now, but the
Right?
chemistry was still there. So that's how our podcast was born.
Nice. That's pretty much what happened with this. You know, Nick was like, "Yo, let's start a podcast about Legos," and I was like, "Dude, I can't. I don't even know what Legos are." And he's like, "You're an idiot." And then we're like,
This
"All right,
week
well, let's." Yeah, and then show
Yellow
boys came out.
Legos.
Yeah. This week on Lego Boys. Let's dive in.
Tune in next week for blue Legos.
Yes.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just joking.
No, you're fine, man. But yeah, maybe we've hyped up Ash vlogs so much throughout this whole episode.
Yeah,
maybe
we should definitely talk about it and explain it a little bit.
Maybe we can take this home, end the episode on a super high positive note, talking about Ash vlogs.
What is Ash Vlogs?
It's a good question. I don't really know.
Hey, that was a really cool. Is that Nick?
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
Dude, that was a really cool little aside voice. You should use that more. That
You
was really
should, for
cool.
sure. I dug it.
Nice.
But
Thank you.
louder.
I mean, it might be. I'm stuck in a time loop right now for our recording pattern. So like, I want to say I did use that voice already.
Yeah. Yes, you totally did use that voice before.
Very good.
Yeah, dude, it's hard. Time is a hard thing. Okay?
October's been weird. That's for sure.
That is.
A
But yeah,
time
so
loop. I like that. You're like stuck in a Tenet, the movie. Did you guys see Tenet at all?
no, but it's
Oh,
on my
man.
list.
Yeah, man.
There's so many things to watch.
It's good for sure. But I'm like a super Nolan fanboy, so I might be a little swayed in that opinion.
It
No,
was
I've heard
fantastic.
good things about it. Yeah, Nick, why don't you go ahead and explain Ash vlogs for us?
So they're video blogs about Ash. Very boring, I would say. I really have no clue what they are.
About Ash.
I mean,
Volcanoes.
not
They're
like
about volcanoes.
volcanic
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes, to the
Volcanoes
dangers
are
of
cool.
volcanic ash and
Ash is cool.
what you should do
Yeah.
in case a volcano erupts around you.
But you have to solve it first before they tell you what to do.
You do nothing, you just die.
Yeah. So, how have both of you watched the Nexpo video on Ash vlogs, though, Alex and Chad?
If that next
I watched
video is the one you sent me, then yes.
Okay. So
I did.
Ash vlog starts, just as any normal vlog would start. You follow the day in the life of, I forget her. Is her name actually Ash? I believe, because it'd be weird if it was not Ash and it was called Ash vlogs.
Her name was
Don't think it.
Ash.
Oh yeah, it was Ash.
She
actually, I
lived
think.
in Adelaide, Australia.
There you go. And you just typical vlog posts documenting her days and evenings and whatnot. And things start to take a turn for the worse, and you see little links in video descriptions and like weird cut-ins of other video into Ash's videos. And as you go down the Ash vlogs rabbit hole, you start to kind of uncover what's going on. And the cool thing about the Ash vlogs ARG is a portion of the story is also picked up by another YouTube channel, and kind of in the conclusion of the series, the other channel like goes to search for Ash, I believe. Am I recalling this right? Does that sound right?
Yes, that does sound right.
So what
I
do you
think
do
that-
when
yeah, go ahead.
another person picks up your ARG and continues it? Just let
But
it go.
I think that's cool, and that kind of plays.
That's called an
into-
AARG.
Yeah.
Assisted alternate reality game.
It's an alternate reality game.
Right. And who knows if these people actually know each other like in real life and they set this up, but if they didn't, I think it's kind of cool because it gives it a little bit more of a layer of realism. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Somebody else is picking it up and then, there was the other channel and I can't remember what it was. It was something weird like Rocky or something like that. Can't
Yeah,
remember,
and
but
wasn't it like his sister or somebody like knew Ash or something?
yes. Yep.
And so like Ash, she hadn't heard from her in a couple days, and then they like try to figure out what's
Raka.
Raka. I was just gonna
There you
say
go.
Raka
Yeah.
Raka is what it was.
But yeah, it's just like that. There's something intriguing about watching a downward spiral, like a story like Ash Vlogs. I don't know why. Like, I don't know really what draws people to enjoy.
It's like
that type of stuff.
the train wreck thing or the car accident. You can't like look away from it. You're more interested. So I think it's super cool, and it's definitely. I think Rabbit Hole explains it perfectly because it's definitely what you're going to get into with some of these bigger ones like Ash Vlogs.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me. There's another one that's kind of actively going on called I Am Sophie, which I stumbled on. There's a channel called Leon Lush. I don't know if you've heard of him on YouTube, but he's like hilarious, and basically all of his videos is just him making fun of stuff, mostly other videos that he finds on YouTube.
Oh, really?
And
wow. What a career!
I know, right? Jeez, must be real hard going to work every day.
Yeah, right. You got to make fun of people on the internet all day.
Yeah.
Well, he probably
Rough
has
life.
a big spiral staircase. So and it's probably like natural wood floors. So I mean it's hard on his feet and he's got a long walk downstairs. So I mean I feel
that's true. So it's it
He's
might
got a
be a
big
little bit more
house.
painful.
Yeah.
We're making
Maybe
it
we'll see. Maybe his chair's not comfy. I don't know.
out.
But he covered this video of like your normal rich YouTuber girl like showing off all of her like her mansion, her car, her fashion stuff, and he's just like making fun of this millennial girl like, oh, this is blah blah blah, typical of the generation, just flaunting all of this money that seemingly has come out of nowhere, blah blah blah. It turns out that like that video was the first video of an ARG series called I Am Sophie. And he just made another follow-up video. So I don't know, maybe he's in on it, but maybe not. But this is a good example of kind of how the community steers the ship of ARGs. In the I Am Sophie series, she makes a video responding to Leon Lush's video, kind of. And she like followed his Twitter or Instagram, I forget which one. And then as the Sophie story kind of progresses, at one point she unfollows everyone except for Leon Lush. And so like it's kind of like a unique thing. Like I kind of hope that he had nothing to do with it and it all just like happened naturally, where like
the
creators
all hope.
Yeah, that would be so cool because that's like
About all of them.
exactly what we're talking about, where it's like somebody like the audience directs the content. So it's kind of cool little thing, and that actually kind of took a really weird turn. So if you're also looking for another one, I Am Sophie. It's a good one
I might
to
check that
out.
one out because I'm definitely intrigued in diving more into Ash Vlogs outside of that video you sent me, because it almost seems like it's, and I could be wrong at this, but it almost seems like it's got like sort of a cult thing in there. Like these people are part of a cult that are
Yeah, I believe you're right. Yeah.
So, and that kind of stuff is super interesting to me because I just think obviously cults are super creepy. So
yeah.
So for it to have like, and it's kind of got the Blair Witch vibe to it too, with some of the Woods videos and some of the like logos that they had like drawn on the trees and stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It almost looks like it's almost exactly the Blair Witch logo, but yeah.
Have you guys ever thought about making a cult?
No.
That's what we're doing with the podcast.
Yeah, that is what this is.
Like that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like I think I just want to turn our podcast into a cult.
I mean, we can do it. I'm sure it's not that hard in today's age.
There are quite a few benefits of being a cult leader.
That's true. That's very
Mike
true.
wouldn't know.
Tons. We could list
So
so
David
many.
Koresh had a lot of, he had a lot of perks.
Yeah.
All the women under him.
Literally.
Literally.
You just
So
get
bizarre, man.
get
That's the
people to give
weirdest-
you all their money.
Yeah, that's so weird to me, man. That's the weirdest part of that entire is that he's just like, yeah, I take the burden off of all the males, and I'm the only one that has sex in the compound. Like, yeah, of course, bro. Conveniently, right?
Taking the
you-
stress of
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's so weird.
I also just love how everyone's like, okay.
Yeah, right. Like, oh yeah, sure.
This makes sense.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you can have my wife and get her pregnant. Not a big deal.
But I mean, I guess that's kind of like us with these ARGs, though.
Yeah.
Like, we see all this
Yeah, right.
crazy stuff.
Yeah,
and it's like,
please make
okay.
a tie to that. I'd
Yeah.
be impressed.
The ARGs are the cult leaders, and we're just like
We're just
all
following
this
them along.
insane, crazy, disturbing stuff that they keep shoving in our face. We're just like, okay, cool.
We
Give me
want
some more. Let's
Give me
go.
some more. Yeah.
I'm
There you
on
go.
board.
You tied it a little bit. There you go.
I mean,
The
I
FBI
would
has
say that
joined the
that's.
server.
I was just gonna say, I would say that that's how we are in response to our government leaders, but that's a whole other topic.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
There's a lot of parallels you can tie there.
for sure.
So
Parallel
Nick,
universes.
after this conversation, are you gonna go down the rabbit hole of ARGs?
Me? No.
That was very
honest.
anticlimactic.
So honest and anticlimactic. No.
No,
Well,
I'm probably
If-
gonna make a
if-
sandwich and
yeah.
pass out.
make a sandwich, have a
Polish off
beer,
the rest
go
of the
to sleep.
chowder.
Yeah. Oh yeah, more chowder. I need some. I'd
Can we
probably
talk about this chowder?
I'd probably dig up like one. If you gave me like one and one only, and then
Hmm.
see where I go from there. So you'd have to give me the most infectious one to make me go watch the others or dig into the others.
Yeah, I think that's Ash Vlogs, man.
Okay.
From everything that we've come across that we've talked today, this one, at least to me, is the most enticing.
There's well, it also depends. Like, are you like super disturbed like me and like the really dark stuff, or like if you're more just into the puzzle aspect of the ARGs, like look into the Cicada 3301 things, because that's just straight puzzles and decoding and decrypting things. That's
like
a
the
really
name.
interesting thing.
Cicada's a fun word. I like that one.
Yeah.
I was
but when
I was at a pumpkin patch the other day, and I was on a hayride. And
do you live in Ohio?
know,
No.
I
Yeah,
do.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, we
Hint,
all
hint.
do. And so I'm on this hayride. I'm trying to set this up for you guys. So pumpkins, hay, naturally.
Leaves.
Hear the sound of the tractor whir, and and out of nowhere, dude, cicadas jumping everywhere, just trying to get out of our way. Oh, dude,
for
it was
reals?
nuts. No, I'm being serious. Yeah,
Oh dang.
I thought
cicadas were jumping
like, only came
everywhere.
out like every 10 years or something ridiculous.
All I'm telling you is we were on a hayride, pumpkins everywhere, hay naturally, and cicadas jumping everywhere.
Interesting.
So-
Very interesting.
Yeah,
Must have found the one part in the world where they don't come back every 10 years.
Yeah.
That's where they live for the 10 years before they invade the rest of the world. Those
and I'm
things are
not
so
exaggerating. It was like we were parting the Red Sea of cicadas.
That's insane.
Cicada patch within the pumpkin patch.
Yeah,
yeah, right.
They took you to the wrong patch.
that's exact. We went
not what I
left
paid
when we
for.
were supposed to go right.
There you go. Yeah.
Someone didn't
Classic.
solve the puzzle right.
Yeah, someone did.
Right.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah.
Cicada ARG is back again.
Oh man, so I have one more recommendation. For some reason, I don't know what made me think of this. Maybe it was your emphasis on please and hey, made me think of there's this video that Nexpo dives into called Kate Yup. I don't know, you probably have never heard of it, but have you guys ever heard of mukbangs?
Yes, I have. Really
Oh my gosh,
bizarre.
I was
Really
not
bizarre,
expecting anyone to say yes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
What?
I mean, I think. I
Okay.
think.
Mike
I
feels so
would
validated
imagine
right
Alex
now.
has heard of
I
it,
do.
too.
I'm so happy because I'm
Mukbangs?
used to Nick and Cody just being like, "No, what are you talking about?"
Yeah,
I
right.
gotta
It's
look
psycho.
that up.
Don't. It's disgusting.
Don't. It's really
Um,
gross.
Well, no, look up Kate Yup because it's very interesting. But basically, a mukbang is somebody engorging themselves with a ridiculous amount of food in an ASMR type fashion, and
With a mic that catches every little
it is
chew and
disgusting.
crunch and swallow, and it's really
Ugh.
gross.
Mike, who are you?
Yeah, right.
Oh my gosh.
You
I hope,
disgusting
like-
creature.
I just
Like-
hope Becca doesn't listen to this.
Well, it's funny
Of course
because
she
it
does.
you
She's
got to
gonna-
think. Go ahead.
I was going to say she's going to leave him further alone in the basement to record.
Yeah,
the
right.
Oh man,
She's
You
going to
gotta think
custom
that-
design an entire room full of custom furniture just for you to stay further
Right.
away.
Yeah. It find
Sorry,
the
Chad,
dark
that's the
corners
third
of the
time I've-
internet.
I'm
Mike,
so sorry. That's the third time now that I've cut you off. So go ahead.
I'm used to it. You got to think that these.
But anyway, it's
yeah.
Yeah, I hate you. It's funny. I do that to my boy all the time, and he gets so frustrated. But he'll never he doesn't get worked up. He just stops talking, and then but you can tell that he's getting frustrated, and I just keep interrupting him. But anyway, back to the mukbangs. You got to think they're popular, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of them, and there's a lot of people that if you look at some of the views on some of them, I don't know, it's
Yeah,
just so
it's
weird.
weird.
I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff on the internet, but
Yeah, the whole ASMR thing is, I don't understand why people like that. Like,
Yeah,
if you guys are familiar with the ASMR stuff, which basically is people doing things into really close to microphones and hearing sounds that are not normally the center of attention, and it's just
right.
like people eating
Well,
crunchy pickles or something.
Yeah, right. And the juice, the juice is it's so gross sounding. But there are people that are I don't want to say phobic of hearing people eat, but it's actually got its own name. I can't remember what the disorder is called, but they can't stand hearing people crunch food and chew. So you got to think that the opposite is
sounds
true.
normal.
Yeah, right. But you got to think the opposite is true too. There are people that
Yeah.
are absolutely in love with that sound. It's so weird. I don't know.
It's
Or
called
if-
misophonia, and
There you go.
I
Yeah.
actually have it, and
Yes.
Don't
One
watch
of the
Kate Yup then.
reasons- one of the reasons is I can't stand certain selective noises anyway. Exactly why I love my brand new AirPod
My new
Pros
AirPods
so much.
Knew it was coming.
You can find them
Boo.
on. No, I'm just kidding.
What were you gonna say, Nick? I keep seeing your name light up. You trying to say something?
No, I was trying to think if people that are listening to people eating these foods and all those little sounds, if they're trying to understand or catch that phobia, you know what I mean? 'Cause
Yeah, right.
and that's the
right.
infatuation with it. Because
Yeah, that's
if
true.
you are someone who has you don't know why. I mean, it's obviously not anything anyone listens to avidly. So all of a sudden, there's oh, this is a thing. So I'm gonna sit here and listen to it
right.
until I understand it.
Until I understand what's wrong with these people. Yeah, I
It's
actually
usually-
know quite a few people that have that. I mean, I guess it's a disorder. Is that what you want to call it?
Well, it's also noise anxiety. I've
Right.
never tied it specifically to food, but I know people with noise anxiety, just about repetitive or infrequent sounds that just reoccur. And obviously that falls under chewing of food to clipping of toenails to
Right. Yeah.
This is my new YouTube channel, bro.
To even
Why'd
like
you spoil
tapping.
that?
Yeah.
My
Just
toenail
gonna
clipping.
clip your toenails.
That kid in
Right
class,
next
he
to
just
the
like
mic.
moves his leg.
This is
Whatever
disgusting.
it is.
Oh man. Okay, so back to Kate Yup. Now that we got everyone totally
Now that we painted a
engaged.
picture for you.
Yeah.
Did
So
someone say cannibalism?
no.
Oh gosh.
So the thing that kind of draws Kate Yup into an ARG type scenario, is the videos are just Kate. I'm assuming her name is Kate. Just devouring ungodly amounts of raw seafood in your typical mukbang type video. But there's like subtle things in the videos that lead people to believe either Kate is in real life danger, like being held captive and being forced to do these videos, or maybe it's an ARG type thing. But like, for example, one of the videos, she has like a bruise on her arm and like a mark on her lip or whatever, and as she's slamming like octopus tentacles or whatever, she's like
Oh my
tapping
gosh.
on like the sauce bowl in what could maybe be like Morse code.
Morse code. Oh wow, interesting.
And then another thing is she kind of like puts text like subtitle type things in the videos, because obviously you need to know what's going on while she's just engorging herself with shrimp and raw salmon.
That sounds so awesome.
Is this
It
fun
really,
for you?
You're really painting a disgusting picture here.
You're actively disgusting everyone.
You're not selling this channel too well.
So this is
I'm
not.
sold. I want to watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just like to be descriptive. I want everyone to know what they're getting
Well,
into.
you're doing a great job.
Welcome to show, boys.
Yeah. But the subtitle text in one particular video, she capitalizes and bolds the first letter in a couple sentences throughout the video. The video is like several minutes long. But wouldn't you know, all the letters that she capitalized and bolds spells out "please help," I believe, or something like that. So
Oh wow.
obviously people picked up on that, or
What?
I believe it was "please help" or it was SOS or something along those lines.
This
and
is kind of like the same thing that happened with like Howie Mandel and Britney Spears on TikTok. Did you guys ever hear about that kind of stuff?
I have
Dude,
not
I'm
heard
literally
about
looking it up
Howie,
right now.
but
So the Howie Mandel stuff, if you get a chance to look up a YouTube video on people think he was like being held captive, and there's a lot of, you just have to look it up because I can't even explain it, because it's and it almost plays out like an ARG kind of, like people are trying to solve these videos and then he's responding to the videos in like super mysterious ways. It's really
We'll talk about it more in depth because I'm pretty sure we've talked about doing an episode on that.
Yeah, we did for sure.
So
yeah, the same thing with Britney Spears. Like, I haven't done much digging myself, but keep seeing like theories and stuff floated out there about her not like all of her super weird Instagram videos like being basically like a cry for help. Like
yeah, and she's got the reason that I kind of tied it, because in one of the videos, I think like on her eyelashes she has "help me" or "please help" or something like that, or maybe it's
and
like
one
under
of
her hat or something. I can't remember what it was, but something
like that. And also there was I think a thing where somebody commented on one of the videos basically like, because this is kind of becoming like a well-known thing in the Britney Spears fan circles, which is how I came across this.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So somebody commented on one of her videos basically being like, are you okay? Like, is something going on? Like, if you're not okay, wear a yellow shirt or something.
And then the next
in the
video,
next upload, she wore yellow.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's kind of like similar to this Kate Yup thing, where a lot of people think that something weird might be going on, but also a lot of people think that nothing weird is going on. It's just a mukbang video, and like Kate had heard about the people looking way too into her videos and thinking she was held captive, that the bolded letter video was kind of her messing and trolling her audience. But
that's interesting.
I don't know. Those are just kind of like, I don't know if they're ARGs, but they kind of like have similar vibes, I guess. To an
Well,
ARG.
if you think about it, like especially with the Howie Mandel stuff and Britney Spears stuff, the Howie Mandel thing started on TikTok when he made a TikTok, because it was kind of around the shutdown. So I think that he was like at home stuck in, he didn't have anywhere to go, nothing to host. So if you think about it, there's really no better way to get followers on TikTok than to buy into this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you see a comment where they're like, "Oh, do you need help?" And then, wear a yellow shirt, and you haven't been popular like Britney Spears. You haven't been popular in 15 years. Now you're going to start doing this stuff to try and get followers. And especially for Howie that just started his TikTok, it's like a perfect way to get followers and get people watching your videos and that kind of stuff. So
any press is good press.
Yep. That's valid.
But yeah, I mean, that pretty much, in a very roundabout way, we kind of covered ARGs. I don't really know what else we could really, I mean, there's a ton we could go into, but like also don't want to have a 15-hour long episode.
Right.
But do you guys have any talking points that maybe we have skipped over, or that have kind of come to mind while we were chatting, that you want to get out?
Yes. Yeah, I've literally been looking for this for the past 10 minutes. Marina Joyce. MARINA JOYCE. It's just like what we were just talking about. You guys gotta check this one out.
This is who I bought my AirPods off of.
Yeah, right.
I just wanted to finish my promotion from earlier. Just shout out. No,
I've actually heard of this one before, but I haven't done any digging on it at all.
Dude, this one is pretty crazy, and it'll probably be, like I said, part of the what we end up talking about with that. And honestly, it'd probably be a cool idea if we just brought you guys on for that one. We could do it like a alternate swap.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
You go. So there we go.
I think there was also a similar situation with another YouTuber called iJustine, maybe.
Yes. Well, I think that something happened with her where like people had found stuff that she had said like 10 years ago. Or she wore like blackface in a video or something like that.
Yeah, I think that was a little different.
Yeah, it was a little different. I think that was more of her. She kind of like gave up YouTube because she was getting so harassed over these things that kind of like a cancel culture type deal.
Right.
People found these things and kind of dogpiled her.
Yeah, I definitely think I've heard of this Marina Joyce thing, though.
Can I shout out one more podcast?
Sure.
Because
Apple iPod, AirPods.
They do a great Marina Joyce episode, and they're also one of my favorite podcasts. They're called Web Crawlers.
Web Crawlers? Yeah,
I think it's like 3 girls, and they basically talk about crazy, theories and stuff. I mean, it's kind of like our show, except
what was the name of it?
Web Crawlers.
Web Crawlers.
Notice us.
Notice us, please. Notice me, senpai. Notice me. But yeah, they do. In fact, that's how I found out about it, and they cover it just completely, and they do a really good job. So if you want like a quick breakdown of it,
yeah, that sounds pretty sweet. So Nick, now that we've been to the end of our ARG conversation, do you think you're going to get into ARGs?
I'm going to look into a few of them for sure.
He's just like, no.
As my primary pastime, no.
Nick's currently making a sandwich.
Yeah.
Currently making a sandwich.
Yeah. So, but for real, from like an outsider's perspective, not really knowing much about ARGs, maybe except for outside of like the viral marketing type use that you see them in, it'd be interesting to know your thoughts, maybe if you have any.
I mean, I am kind of browsing through this cannibalism restaurant one in Brazil because that one just seems interesting to me.
Yeah.
So probably the more closer, like the ones that haven't been classified or deciphered yet. I mean, those are probably the ones that I would dig into. Because I guess that might kind of defeat the point. Like the ones that are just kind of already blown open as ARGs kind of lose some of their appeal. But these ones that it's like, is it real? That sounds super interesting.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of asked earlier if there was somewhere to go where you could just get the original content without kind of discovering that it's not real or discovering clues or stuff. Because
YouTube does some good collaborations, but most of the time when these things are found out, it's sometimes because there were police involved, and like I was saying earlier, they shut it all down.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
I mean,
I'm not talking about the harmless ones. I'm talking about the ones where we were saying like people may be in trouble and stuff like that. I'm not talking about like, Cloverfield.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
The ARG subreddit would be a good place, but I feel like that kind of takes a little bit of the fun out of it because you already know it's an ARG, but you still have the whole puzzle solving thing.
Yeah.
But man, it would be, I mean, I have no idea how you would organically stumble upon something like this, but that would be so interesting and fun and like just kind of like mind-blowing. So you're like, what did I get myself into? What is this?
Yeah, right.
Would you guys consider randonauting as an ARG?
That's a good question. I don't really know, but randonauting is such an interesting thing.
It is.
Like, speaking of Nexpo and Night Docs, they do a really good video on randonauting and kind of like go deep explaining into it, and they kind of had a little randonauting adventure themselves. But yeah, I think it'd be fun to try just to like see what happens. But yeah, do you want to explain randonauting real quick for those who don't know?
Me? Yeah.
Yeah.
So randonauting is basically the activity of using an app called Randonautica. It really took off on TikTok, and again, I do not have a TikTok. I know.
It almost seems like you work for them.
No.
Yeah.
In some capacity.
He watches YouTube videos of TikTok.
Yeah, you work part-time for Apple's
with his AirPods.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, so basically what you do is you open up the app, give it your location and stuff like that, and then it asks you basically what do you want to see. And if I'm not mistaken, I've only done it one time, you type that in and then it'll give you 3 options. And to kind of summarize it, you either will see something that is just kind of normal and maybe fun, or you will see something that is mysterious, or you will see something that is terrifying. And most people choose the terrifying one, which is what a lot of the stuff that you see on YouTube and stuff like that. And that, like I said, that's how I kind of found out about it. But it's almost one of those things that, because the whole thing on it is it's saying that there's like a higher power, that like a spirit power or something like that is controlling the app, and aside from all of that, it's weird that people are finding anything at all, because to my knowledge these are random locations that are located near you, and most of the time I have yet to go out and actually search, but I really want to do it, and I really want to like make something out of it when I do it, like a live
Like a
stream or
YouTube
something like
video or
that.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool for sure.
But
I would totally do it with you because I've wanted to do it
let's do it.
myself also. Dad,
yeah, I've
did
wanted to.
you-
It's almost.
go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry, Mike.
Okay.
Go
Did
ahead,
you guys
Mike.
hear about the story? I think it was in Seattle, where people were led to this beach. I'm pretty sure it was Seattle. I could be wrong. Anyways, people were randonauting. It led them to like a beach, and they found
A body.
2 black suitcases or
Yeah.
1 black suitcase, and like it smelled funny, so they called the cops, and turned out that it was like 2 people who were murdered and chopped up and put in this black suitcase.
And
Yeah,
that was that they posted that on TikTok, and that's how it gained popularity. And that's one of the that is one of the things that kind of moved the app along, is people were like, what in the world? Because I saw it on the App Store for a long time before I knew anything of what it was. I thought it was like a GPS app, like just for like hiking and stuff, or I thought it was like
Right.
similar,
That's
because
what
it is
that's what I
similar.
thought it was too. Yeah.
A lot more people know of geocaching. So if you think of geocaching, it's essentially geocaching
It's like the next
for
lineage.
like,
Yeah.
it's like paranormal or like creepy geocaching, basically.
Yeah, so like that 100% real story that happened, and like super disturbing. And so like you were just saying, that kind of made people want to check it out. And one of the things that is brought up in Nexpo and Night Doc's videos on randonauting is like, obviously that's not the norm, right? But like
Right.
when you go out on your randonauting adventure, since you're selecting options of things that you like want to see, I'm using air quotes, but nobody can see because we're not in the same place.
Whoa.
But like, is it like really just confirmation bias when you go out? Like, similar to people who go ghost hunting, for example. Like, if I were to go ghost hunting and go into like a creepy abandoned house, like I'm gonna be hypersensitive and hyper aware to everything that's going
Absolutely.
on around me,
Yep.
because I'm already thinking like, ooh, this
Something's
might be
gonna happen.
haunted. It's really
Yep.
spooky in here. I heard stories about stuff that's happened here. So like every little thing that happens, whether it's natural or paranormal, like you're going to notice. So like, are people? I mean, obviously the thing that happened in Seattle with the bodies and the suitcase and stuff, like that was real. But like, for the other creepy ones that you see videos on YouTube of that aren't as concrete, like, are people just making something out of a somewhat normal situation because they're hyper focusing on seeing something terrifying or things like
Yeah,
that?
I think you nailed that on the head for sure.
It's kind of like, well, I'm going to say one thing on what you just said, and then I'm going to go back to one other thing that kind of made me think more about Randonautica. So with you talking about the hypersensitivity and the confirmation bias, I went to the Ohio State Reformatory like a couple weeks ago. My wife and I went, and it was so funny seeing some of the people, like they would pull you to the side and be like, hey, stand right here. Isn't it so cold? And like
Yeah,
do you
right.
feel that wind? And I'm thinking
Yeah.
to myself, I'm like, well, first of
No.
all, we're standing in between 2 same size doorways, and there's a natural air gradient that you're going to feel. But yeah,
Right.
you guys can totally believe it's ghosts.
Right. Yeah. And
But
that's how I almost feel about a lot of the ghosts, especially the ghost shows. And I talked about this on one of our episodes. Like, if they don't find anything in the show, then there's no show.
Right.
I mean, nobody wants to watch a
Exactly.
show where they just never find anything. So I think a lot of the ghost shows are probably made up to a point, and then half of it's made up, and then the other half is them being super sensitive to this stuff and thinking, these supernatural sounds that probably happen in these old places are ghosts. So I think
I did find some seriously unexplainable things, though. 2 in particular examples that I seriously couldn't explain, but I'm not going to get into all that right now. But anyway, one example where you were talking about the confirmation bias, there was a video that was posted on YouTube of two people going randonauting, and I feel like I'm a decent judge when something's scripted and when something isn't.
Mhm.
And these two people were literally just uploading the video. It was a guy and his girlfriend, and the girl was like, she wasn't like too into it, but the guy was like, yeah, we should just try this out. It'll be fun, like a cool date. So the girl was like, all right, I'm thinking of something. And then she typed it in, and she said that she was looking for a cat. And so then the app, did its thing, and they went into this, it took them down this long drive with just like, high wooded areas next to them. And when it said that they were at their destination, they didn't find anything. They're looking around. They didn't find anything. And they were about to walk back to their car. And like a stray cat was walked right past their car. And but it wasn't in like it was completely wooded. It wasn't even like a
area or anything.
Yeah. I mean, there was no reason that a cat really should have been there, because I don't know. I just thought it was really weird, and it made me want to look a lot more.
Is that the same one where like his car alarm went off too?
No, that one was totally fake.
Okay, yeah. Because I was just going to say that.
Totally scripted.
Yeah.
There's another one where they go inside an abandoned house, and on their way out, there's clearly 3 people in the car, but they make it so that they make it seem like there's only 2 people. There's someone in the back seat, and these 2 people go in the house, and it's abandoned. And then while they're in the house, they hear their car alarm go off, and they start freaking out and whatever, and blah blah blah. And it's completely scripted. It's actually really funny to watch, but
it is definitely that we came across that because I thought we were maybe thinking about going and doing it or doing an episode on it or something. We looked that up when we were at work together.
I'm totally down if we want to go randonauting.
Let's set something up.
Nick can make us some Sammys, and we'll
sandwiches. I'll be in charge of directions.
Did Nick even say anything about sandwiches, or we just
no? I've completely planted that.
Okay, all right.
Nick,
I was just curious.
I don't even know Nick, but I know 3 things about Nick. Nick loves sandwiches. Number 2 is that was the third one. So I'm going from 3 to 1. The number 1 being the top fact about Nick here. Number 3 is he loves sandwiches. Number 2 is Nick's a great guy. Number 1 is Nick has a podcast called Showboys.
There we go.
There it is.
Brought it home.
Boom.
Yeah. This was fun. We'll definitely have to do this again
For sure, man. I had a blast.
So closing remarks. If you've never heard of ARGs, now you have, and you should go travel down the insanely long rabbit holes of all of these different kinds of ARGs. They're super fun. They're really engaging. And if you like interactive media, this is right up your road. For normal people, unlike myself, there are plenty of ARGs that are not super dark and disturbing. But if you are into that or are fans of that strange, I would assume that you're into that. There are plenty of stories for you to get wrapped up in. So as usual, make sure you like and subscribe and rate and follow on all of our social media pages at Showboys Podcast and the platforms in which you might be listening to this episode. And if you have never heard of That's Strange, Alex and Chad's podcast, please check them out. Their stories and episodes are very, very interesting. And thank you guys so much for coming on and being a part of this episode.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you very much. It was a blast.
Yeah, no, this was fun. Very conversational.
So we have one final tradition that we do at the end of every episode, and that is we say adieu to Craig. So goodbye, Craig.
Yeah, goodbye, Craig. Thank you so much.
See you later, Craig. Pleasure meeting you.
Craig, I want to tell you something. You've done a good job today. I think that you could use a little work when it comes to automation. Obviously, there is some work that needs to be done by these boys have to do. I think you could step it up a little bit. But all in all, I think you're doing a good job for what you're given. You know, it's an online server. Obviously, bandwidth is an issue, and I understand that, Craig. But in the future, just remember these words and remember that you're respected, but not by me, not ever. Goodbye.